Social media addiction. Social media addiction is phone addiction amplified by social reward. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and X are not just content feeds. They are feedback machines. Likes, views, comments, shares, trends. Every interaction is a signal about social value. From a brain perspective, this taps directly into ancient survival systems. Humans evolved to care deeply about social status, inclusion, and reputation. Being seen mattered. Being ignored was dangerous. Social media hijacks this system. The brain receives unpredictable rewards. One post performs badly, another suddenly explodes. The inconsistency is what creates addiction. The brain keeps checking because it never knows when the next reward will appear. This creates dopamine loops. Scroll, reward, scroll, novelty, scroll, validation. Even negative content keeps the loop alive because emotional stimulation still activates the system. Fear of missing out plays a major role. The brain believes that if it disconnects, it will fall behind socially or informationally. The feed never ends. There is always something new. The absence of a stopping point keeps the behavior going. Over time, social media addiction reshapes emotional regulation. Mood becomes tied to external feedback. Self-worth fluctuates with metrics. Comparison increases. Anxiety rises when engagement drops. The signs become clearer. You open apps without intention. You feel restless when not checking. You consume content without remembering it. You feel drained but continue scrolling. This is not because content is bad. It is because the system is optimized to keep attention, not well-being. To regain control, structure is essential. Time boundaries matter more than motivation. Fixed windows for social media use, removing apps from the home screen, turning feeds grayscale to reduce emotional pull. Most importantly, shifting focus from passive consumption to active use. Creating instead of scrolling, messaging instead of comparing. The brain is social, but it was not designed for infinite social exposure. Phone addiction. Phone addiction does not start with excess. It starts with convenience. At first, the phone is just a tool, a way to communicate, navigate, check information, pass time. The brain does not register danger. There is no substance, no intoxication, no visible harm, just a screen. But the habit forms quietly. Every time you check your phone, your brain receives a small signal of anticipation. Maybe there is a message, maybe something new, maybe something important. This uncertainty is key. The brain is far more responsive to possible reward than guaranteed reward. Over time, the phone becomes linked to relief. Bored? Check. Slightly anxious? Check. Waiting? Check. The brain learns that the phone can fill any empty mental space. Neurologically, this behavior trains the dopamine system to associate calm and stimulation with one object. The brain stops tolerating silence. Micro moments of discomfort are immediately interrupted. That is why the reflex becomes automatic. You don't decide to check your phone. Your hand moves before thought appears. The action happens below awareness. The first warning signs are subtle. You feel uneasy when your phone is not within reach. You check it without remembering why. You unlock the screen and forget what you were looking for. These are not personality flaws. They are habit loops. As phone addiction grows, attention fragments. The brain becomes accustomed to rapid context switching. Long focus feels harder. Rest feels incomplete. Even when nothing is happening on the phone, the brain expects it to. To regain control, the goal is not to remove the phone, but to interrupt the reflex. Creating friction matters. Turning off non-essential notifications. Placing the phone out of reach during focused moments. Relearning how to tolerate short periods of boredom. Boredom is not the enemy, it is the reset state of the brain. Gaming addiction. Gaming addiction follows a different path. It is built on progression. Games provide something the real world often does not. Clear goals, immediate feedback, visible improvement, level up, unlock rewards, complete missions, gain status. From a neurological standpoint, games create perfectly structured reward systems. Effort leads to reward, skill leads to progress. Failure is temporary and reversible. The brain loves this clarity. Dopamine spikes not just from winning, but from approaching the next reward. The grind becomes motivating. Time compresses. Hours pass unnoticed. Problems begin when the reward system becomes dominant. The brain starts preferring virtual progress over real-world effort. Real life feels slow, ambiguous, unrewarding by comparison. Gaming addiction is not about games themselves. It is about escape into a system where effort always makes sense. Warning signs include losing track of time, neglecting responsibilities, irritability when interrupted, and emotional flattening outside the game. The real world feels dull. Only the game feels engaging. The brain adapts by lowering sensitivity to non-game rewards. Motivation for work, relationships, or long-term goals decreases. To regain control, balance must be restored, not by eliminating games, but by reintroducing meaning elsewhere. Physical activity, skill building, social connection. The brain needs alternative sources of progression. Gaming becomes dangerous when it replaces life instead of complementing it. Porn addiction. Online porn addiction does not begin with excess. It begins with curiosity and availability. For most people, the first exposure happens early, often by accident. The brain is not prepared. Sexual imagery is one of the most powerful, natural stimuli it can encounter. It activates reward circuits designed for reproduction, bonding, and motivation. Pornography amplifies this system. Each new image or video delivers novelty, and novelty is dopamine's favorite trigger. The brain does not respond strongest to pleasure itself, but to variation, new scenes, new faces, new scenarios. This constant novelty creates rapid dopamine spikes that real-life intimacy cannot replicate at the same speed. Over time, the brain adapts. Dopamine receptors become less sensitive. What once felt stimulating now feels normal. This is tolerance. The user seeks more intense content, longer sessions, or more frequent use to achieve the same effect. This is not about morality. It is about neuroadaptation. As tolerance increases, real-world attraction may decrease. Emotional connection feels weaker. Sexual response becomes conditioned to screens rather than presence. The brain has learned a shortcut to stimulation. Signs of porn addiction include escalating content, loss of control over usage, using porn to regulate stress or emotions, and difficulty experiencing satisfaction without it. Shame often appears, which paradoxically strengthens the cycle by adding emotional distress. Regaining control requires reducing intensity, not just frequency. Removing high-speed novelty, creating distance between impulse and action, reintroducing real-world reward systems, physical activity, meaningful connection, delayed gratification. The brain can recalibrate, but it requires time without constant overstimulation. Shopping addiction. Online shopping and spending addiction is built on anticipation, not possession. The moment you see an item you want, your brain releases dopamine. Not when you buy it, when you imagine owning it. The anticipation is the reward. Online shopping platforms are engineered to exploit this. One-click purchases, personalized recommendations, limited time offers, countdown timers. Each element increases urgency and reduces reflection. The payment itself becomes part of the reward loop. Spending money activates dopamine pathways similar to gambling. The swipe, the confirmation screen, the order placed. The brain receives closure. Then comes the crash. The item arrives. The excitement fades quickly, sometimes before the package is even opened. The brain has already moved on to the next potential reward. This creates a cycle. Boredom, browsing, anticipation, purchase, disappointment, repeat. Warning signs include impulsive purchases, regret after buying, hiding spending behavior, and using shopping to cope with stress or negative emotions. To regain control, friction is key. Delaying purchases by 24 hours, removing saved payment methods, unsubscribing from promotional emails, tracking spending visually. The goal is not deprivation, it is restoring conscious choice. Shopping becomes dangerous when it replaces emotional regulation. Streaming addiction. Streaming and binge-watching addiction is fueled by continuity. Modern streaming platforms removed the natural stopping points that once existed. No weekly episodes, no commercials, no waiting. Just next episode starts in 5 seconds. The brain is drawn into narrative immersion. Stories activate empathy, curiosity, and emotional investment. When an episode ends on uncertainty, the brain seeks resolution. The next episode provides it. This is the cliffhanger effect. Dopamine is released not because the content is extraordinary, but because the story is unfinished. The brain wants closure, and the platform delivers it instantly. Over time, binge-watching shifts sleep patterns. Nights extend, mornings suffer. The brain becomes accustomed to late-night stimulation. Circadian rhythms destabilize. Signs of addiction include losing track of time, watching despite exhaustion, neglecting responsibilities, and using shows to avoid thoughts or emotions. Streaming becomes a refuge, a way to pause life without solving anything. To regain control, boundaries must be external. Episode limits, watching only at specific times, removing autoplay, creating rituals that signal stopping. Stories are powerful, but the brain needs endings. These digital addictions share a common mechanism. They all exploit the brain's reward system. Dopamine, anticipation, habit formation. None of them rely on intoxication. They rely on attention capture. The brain does not distinguish between chemical and digital rewards. It adapts to both. Addiction is not weakness. It is learning gone too far. Regaining control does not require eliminating technology. It requires redesigning the relationship with it, reintroducing effort, delay, and intention. The goal is not disconnection, it is conscious use. Explaining things simply.